Hey, welcome back to the Build It Basement. I am Kerm. Today we're working on our StealthBurner for our Voron 2.4 R2, and this thing is probably going to be a two-part series because we are packing a lot of stuff inside of this StealthBurner. We've got unicorns, 4K cameras, Rapido hot ends, and a lot more. So watch the video and check it out. So quick overview of what we got going on right here right now. There we go. Just gonna go over some of the parts we're installing here. We have our Fadus Rapido. We have, let's go to a wider camera than this. This is just too close. That's better. Yeah? All right, back to this. We got our Fadus, our Rapido, in of course a nice shade of blue to match with the rest of the printer. We've got this special Lineo rainbow, what is this called? Rainbow barf. So yeah, so basically unicorn barf, right? For all the kids out there, this is unicorn. Oh, which camera out? This is unicorn barf. So very cool thing. Check it out. KB3D has them. Just look up Lineo rainbow barf. You'll find it there. And probably, I don't know, 6-7 videos from now, we'll probably do some programming in Clipper to make some cool stuff happen with that. So we have that. We also have our 4K Sony 3DO nozzle camera. Very slick, very small, very cool. We have our special Lineo sunglasses, aka a polycarbonate piece here with some special darkening around where that's actually comes. So when that comes out of our Voron on the print there, it will it's kind of look a little cooler than normal. What else we have? What else do we have? We have, well, we have NeoPixels, but that's building into our unicorn, so we don't need that. That's what came with the kit. We have a two-piece board for this, again from Lineo, two-piece StealthBurner. Not putting can in this quite yet, but maybe there'll be a whole upgrade series too, right? You know, why end it with just the ultimate build when you can make the ultimate build? So all that being said, let's take a look at the PDF and start building. All right, so first things first, we have our fan block here at the hot end and a bunch of information here. Clockwork 1, clockwork 2, missing corner. One thing to note on these parts, so the people at Voron, the high-end engineers that do all this for free for you and me, they've gone ahead and they've stamped in letters to let us know which part we have and which revision of that part it is for which type of hot end we have. For instance, that's right here. Is that focused? Kind of focused right there. So it has a P, RPD, which stands for the Fadus Rapido. Pretty dang nifty if you do ask me. And then we also have other markings on other things to tell us what they are. So we know we have the right parts, right? It doesn't work without the right parts. Now I've gone ahead and already put some heat certs inside these parts. So I've skipped ahead of that just because that is boring as all hell to watch. And if you've made this far through the build or you're doing your own build, you would have already practiced and you would put it hundreds, if not thousands of heat certs into things, or at least a dozen or two. So we're going to skip over that. But right here, we will look at this real quick. Heat certs, these two right here are for an optional ADXL PCB mount. That's so you can do your input shaping if you choose to do so, which I highly suggest you do at least once when you first build it, and probably twice, 3 times, or anytime you make any major changes to your Voron. On top of that, that's also another mounting point that we could possibly use to mount our PCB for our 3DO camera, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So hot end. So they right here are using the Revo hot end, which I have a few of. I have a few of everything at this point, which unfortunately is part of this hobby, right? You wind up with extra stuff, and for good, bad, or indifference, they become spare parts. So what they're doing here is they're kind of showing you how the Revo goes together, which is kind of interesting, I guess. And kind of how it mounts and how the wiring goes through with your thermistor as well as your hot end wiring. So you have that all right there. And bending a strain relief. Almost all the hot ends you have are going to have some type of strain relief. Now the Rapido has a very similar design that you could argue is a little too similar, but it's good. You know, these things are all good. The biggest thing about this type of community is nobody wants to rake anybody over the coals for the most part when it comes to some minor plagiarism. Plagiarism? Anyways, so copying is not necessarily a bad thing with some modification and some tinkering and making things better and letting people choose what they want. Now, if you have a patent on something, by all means, everybody should note that patent and not kind of disregard it. But if you're not, all the better for the community. Things tend to change quicker and better and faster for all the people that are utilizing the parts when there aren't patents involved. So, particular part of this hot end here on the Revo is not part of the patent. The actual patent is the hot end itself and how it goes all the way up through, and it's a one piece between the actual nozzle and the heat break. So again, similar. So right here we're getting into the actual build. We're mounting the hot end and we're putting the back on it. So we're going to jump right in and start doing that. All right, so let's start someplace, huh? So just quickly show everybody what the Rapido looks like. If you don't know, this one actually has the heat block or the heater core taken off it along with the thermistor, and you wind up with a roughly 3-part piece here. If you don't count the locking nut here, you want to put your hot end with a thermal brake and a spring to hold everything in line when you put it together. And that's what you're going to see in your manual for your Voron. Just gonna throw that back together real quick. Don't ask me where the heater core is for that. I probably stole it, put it someplace else. But on the Rapido, Bambito, good stuff-o. Let's try to get that out. I'm gonna leave the rest of the stuff in there for now. Looks like some wiring, some nozzles. We don't need any of that. The first thing we are going to do though is we are going to disassemble the top portion of this, okay? So what we're looking for is just to have the mounting screws available to us. So we don't need this top section that's on here. We want the actual screws so we can mount this. So going to unscrew these. One screw and 2 screw, and we can see that now we have 4 screw holes to utilize, which is a good thing because that is exactly how many we need. Okay, and we are actually going to be mounting this slightly cocked, and that is so that we can actually get everything where we need it to be. That being said, I'm gonna bend. This shows a little bit. Let's see if I can twist this zip tie just a little bit. I don't want to be overly aggressive with this stuff. It's probably one of the fragile areas of the printer. We do want this wire to kind of be protected, and it's going to go above that hole, so we want something like that, and our screw holes are just almost aligning where we want them, so that is going to work for us. Okay, so as for mounting this, the screws that we're going to need, let's see if they came with this Rapido. I guess we are going to open up this stuff. I think we're good. Let's see here. Printing something special behind me. I had a very nice gentleman that, let's see, what was the gentleman's name? Woody. Woody decided to do some practice in Fusion 360 and do a quick rendition of my Builditbasement logo for me. And I am printing it off right now. So we're going to see how that turns out in a second. So let's see if these screws are long enough first of all. I don't know. I have no idea. That is going to make it. All right. I'm going to throw caution to the wind and piss off about 10% of my audience. And I'm going to put a little thread locker in these little holes. And if for nothing else, we have expansion and contraction happening here due to the temperature variance that we're going to get. And I am willing to risk blasphemy of having a little bit of thread locker touch a little bit of ABS plastic. So if you think I'm crazy, go ahead and leave me a comment. I don't mind. I like getting comments. But it is what it is. There we go. A little bit in there. So now I'm going to put this back on here. And that snaps in like that. Give it a quick, kind of a half a twist. It's kind of like a high dive, right? It's going to do the triple twist. This isn't the right. Where are my good tools? So what happens, I go on a little miniature vacation with the family and I lose all my bearings and all my tools and all my good stuff. Or good enough stuff, right? So let's get that there. Let's get the second one in there too. So just like on the Revo Voron, these mounting screws are used. In most hot ends, even though you may not realize it, are able to come apart on the top. At least quite a few of them are. So you can actually mount them in different ways. And this just happens to be how this goes in. Yeah, cool. Nice. All right, so PDF manual, hot end wiring, strain relief. So where we're at, and putting the back onto it. So the back portion of this print is actually the secondary two mounting screws for the hot end itself. So that kind of locks it in place. Let's go back to the camera here. Let's cut it right in nice and tight for this. We'll get all the views today. So Mr. Hot End right here, and this guy right here is going to get mounted on top, like so. Okay, and this is basically going to hold everything together where we want it. Okay, so I already have a little bit. I'm not putting thread lock in this. It's not a real functional part in terms of it actually holding back on anything or mounting anything, other than the fact that it's the secondary mount for this hot end, which it is going to be on. This is going to become a sandwich more than anything else once this is on the printer, this back piece. So I'm going to tighten those up decently, but not too much so. The manual's calling out for some M3x12s. Most hot ends will come with its own screws. If you do need them, you can try M3x12s, but you may very well need to go something slightly shorter, maybe something longer, depending on the printer. I'm going to clean up a little bit here. I see some invasive And I just broke that. Well, that ain't good. Little duct there. I'm not gonna reprint the part. Very thin. Kind of interesting. If nothing else, is just kind of guide air a little bit more. I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference. So we'll leave that. If nothing else, is used to bridge so your tops don't cave in on each other. So I think I'm good with that. Kind of sucks though. I hate when I break something. So that's where we're at. Back to the PDF again. We done did that. And 3x12s, okay, and yep. So if you will notice, our holes are staggered a little bit. Those ones are straight on, and 3 mounting bolts because we can. That's why. Other high designs may use different mounting hardware. Absolutely true. Absolutely noted. Duly, truly noted. PTFE stick out. The PTFE tube should stick out 11 millimeters above the surface of the printed part. The stick out length might vary if you use an extruder other than the Clockwork 2. So this basically is the part that's going to lead our filament from our Clockwork 2 directly into a hot end. And you do want to be relatively precise with this, because if you're not, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to mushroom the top of this piece and cause it so that you have trouble to get the filament actually down through, or you're going to wind up with a gap. And if you wind up with a gap, you have a hard edge that your filament can possibly hit. So what I suggest you do is get as close as possible to this, and then do a very slight small ream using a cutoff, some small cutters, flat, what do you call them? Flat cutters. Let's do this one right here. Some flush cutters, that's what I meant. So some flush cutters like this, and then basically you can put the end inside and ream it out a little bit. Let me get some PTFE tubing. I got some good old-fashioned Capricorn that I'm going to use. Your kit probably came with some, and my kit did too, but this is in my hand already. So basically what I want to do is stick this in. I want to push it as hard as I can. Went in pretty easy. And I'm just going to cut it long for now. When I cut this, I'm going to do a little bit of a twist. Like that. And then we're going to wind up eventually cutting it with a razor blade so we get a nice flat cut. And then we're going to do that reaming I just talked about. So let's measure our 11 millimeters first from the top of this guy. So we're zeroed out, 11 millimeters coming up. Gotta love that when it goes from 11.01 to 10.98. Ah, so sensitive. All right, neatness counts. So what I'm going to do, attempt to do, is measure this where I want it. And I'm going to basically, let me switch cameras for y'all. Basically put this in position so it holds itself, because I only have 2 hands. That's all I got. And I'm going to mark that just with a little nick that you can feel with your fingers, but you probably can't see all that well. I'm going to pull this back out. I'm going to find our mark, hopefully. I think that's it. I'm gonna mark that a little bit better this time. Okay, and I am going to, in one fell swoop, give that a quick flush cut. As flush as I can make it. Now the other end on this was already flush. The other end on this was already flush. Sometimes I don't speak English. So I don't need to recut that one. But that should be right where we want it. I'm going to recheck it, remeasure it here. And it looks pretty dang good. And then what I'm going to do is just going to slightly put these inside, and I'm going to use the cutting edge to slightly, very slightly, ream this out. So kind of have a funnel effect. And that is not working for me. So we're going to go to option 2 with an X-Acto knife and try the same thing. Because when you're doing things on video, it never does what you want it to do. And the whole point here is kind of just give yourself a little bit extra room to play with. You don't want a ton, but you want a little bit. Now, if you do decide to do this, the big thing I will mention is you want to make sure with 1000% certainty that you do not have any more of that PTFE tube fragment stuck inside that tube, because it will jam you up. There we go. Looks good. Back to the manual. All right, we have the 11 millimeters there, PTFE stick out. And now on to the front. Set that aside. All right, so we're gonna be removing some supports. They're highlighted in blue. Guess we can do that right now. So support number 1. We'll clean these up too, right? Okay, and then these guys down here. We're leaving some of this on because our wiring is actually going to be guided through these areas. So that's the only purpose for these parts. And the supports are to make sure they don't cave in during the printing process. I got a little bit of a stress fraction on that one, but I think we'll be okay. And got a little schmidly in there. Good. All right. So that's all we need to clamp on that part. Now, this right here, this part is two-tone, and that was done using, I believe it's an M600 call on your printer, which is a pause. So I do not have a dual filament printer, an IDEX or anything like that. But if you put an M600 at a layer change, that will cause your printer to pause and then allow you to do a filament change. And if you do it decently, you can have a two-tone part. I believe this was at probably layer 6, maybe around there. I'm not 100% sure. And you also notice that this part is slightly different from the original Afterburner because it has this down here. This is a grill segment that leads to a mounting point for a 4K camera. That is the 4K camera that we got right here. This is the 3DO nozzle camera. I purchased this one from KB3D. It's KB-3D if you want to go to the website. Talk with Chris, he can get you some of these. They come in a 1080p as well as a 4K. And it is USB connected back to your Raspberry Pi, and should be pretty neat once we get that going. Of course, it's going to require us to do more software configuration, but That will be fun and good time. So I'm gonna clean up real quick here. Let's get this stuff out of the way before we jump into the next thing. Extra screws. Put that back into our Rakido box. Set that aside. And PDF. So right here, we're skipping ahead by leaps and bounds. If you decide you want to take the technical, fun, bootstrapping method of building your Voron, which do it if you want to extend the time it takes you to build it, but you want to do everything yourself, you can buy your own LEDs. You can buy your own NeoPixels. And you can set these all up, wire them all up, wire your own wires to them, everything like that. And there's going to be 3, and then a wiring going to it. And these are all basically run in series. Let's see, yeah, one after the other, yep. In parallel, actually parallel to the logo LED, and then off to the second ones, which are ins and outs. And you can do that if you want to. I had the rainbow barf, which is pretty neat. And if you don't know what that is, you'll see it in a later video, or you can again go to KB3D and check it out. Ours also comes with the holder that you see here. It's built right onto the rainbow barf. And the light diffuser is from actually it's from Lineo. And it's a neat little part. Our part actually it's a single part altogether. And it has a little bit of a, I don't know what to call it, probably a smoked look to the front part of this. So it looks black when nothing's on. Looks kind of neat. So we're going to install these. And we're also going to install the camera and the mounts and all that stuff. But yeah, let's jump into that. We'll do this on a close-up. So first things first, I'm actually going to mount the camera because we got to deal with this. Now this is really flexible and it's really thin, but it's also relatively fragile. So we're mounting the camera basically in this little spot here, and this is a nozzle camera. This will basically give us a really good close-up of what's going on with the nozzle. And I'm going to basically seat this in, and I'm not going to put a lot of stress or doing pulling of this because it is a ribbon cable and it will easily fracture off of the board. I'm just going to do some pushing as much as I can without actually even messing with that ribbon cable at all. So let's see where we're at. We need to go in just a little bit more. And there we go. Snap it right into place. Now it has this little red tab on here. That is our lens protector. I'm gonna leave that on for now, but that does need to come off. If you have cloudy looking video, that is probably the reason why. But you know that. You already know that. So pushing down on that T section again, not putting a ton of pressure down there on the connection to the actual camera. And then I'm going to give it a small, very small twist to route it right around through and to the side right here. So we've gone from here up around, down, up around, through here. And now we're going to lead it right here onto this back corner. Okay. And then it is going to get routed. I'm going to put a small little fold in this, a 90-degree fold to change direction. It's kind of hard to see, but basically right here, put a 90-degree fold on that. You don't need to press it hard or anything like that, but that is going to go up that way. And then we're going to wind up here. And I'm going to again give it another 90-degree fold so we can make those corners. So we're looking like this. Okay. Now we might have to modify this. I have not installed one of these yet. I have not installed this one yet, so this is all new to me as well. So we'll see where we wind up here. So we have that in here. Next, the unicorn barf. And I just want to keep saying unicorn barf because frankly, it's kind of fun to say unicorn barf. But here's our unicorn barf. So first thing we need to do is install our Lineo diffuser. That's this guy right here. And that is going to go down with the shaded segments with the logo facing downwards. And it's going to plop into place. And with a little bit of luck, we can get that in there. There we go. What I suggest you do, if you're having trouble getting that in, is try to get the portion of it that's nearest to you in first, and then work the back end downwards. So you can get it set flat, and then on the front, it's going to look like that. So it's black until it lights up, okay? Next part, we have our holder with our special LEDs. And that is going to go in. Almost did it backwards. Couldn't see it if I did it that way. That is going to go in. Nope, that popped up on me. As soon as we get that where we need this, that is going to go in on top of our diffuser. And this does have a little bit of a kind of like a little locking pin on there. Locking clip, pin, whatever you want to call it. And it's gonna kind of work its way in there until it seats all the way, like so. Okay, won't go any further. It's all the way in there. That's holding everything right in place now. It's 100%. Okay, so let's take a look at the regular manual and see where that puts us. Kind of done that. And let's see, the wire routing. Okay, so wire routing, our connection wiring is going to go one way, and our other wiring is going to go the other way. So because I'm going to do this a slightly different way than they show in the manual, because, you know, why not? And part of it is because I'm going to try to keep as much away from, actually in the end I guess it doesn't really matter much, but I was going to try to keep as much away from these camera wires as possible. So I was going to run the actual primary wires upwards here. So that's going to wind up there, and I'm going to run these this way on the opposite side. And we might have to change this, but I like to keep noisy items away from each other, and I like to always keep anything electrical away from cameras specifically, because you can spend a lot of time trying to figure out why something's happening with a video feed, only to find that it's something silly. Video is very susceptible, receptive, or receptive. Yeah, it's receptive. I think I better work on my English as a second language. All right, so we got that right there. We're gonna need a little room up there when we get the fan in, but I think we'll be okay. I'll leave a little bit of slack. Then we're gonna run our first LED. This one is underneath, so I'm gonna slide. Be careful with these wires too. This is PTFE wiring, so it's not the most flexible stuff in the world. But it's very good stuff. It's very good when it comes to withstanding high temperatures and abrasion. So that snaps right in like that. This is going to utilize this channel that's right here to get it from point A to point B. My hands are going to be in the way through most of this, and I apologize. Oh, and that's a razor blade. I hope I don't step on that. And there we go. And see if we can tuck this down a little bit. It's kind of a fidgety part of the build here, but you know what? It's a gateway to the wiring of the whole printer, so get used to it, right? With cool stuff comes more wiring. With more wiring comes a lot more of the neatness counts stuff. Luckily, there are places to tuck wires in here that are pre-designated, so that's a big help. Sometimes you'll build something and, you know, the details just aren't there. What they say about a picture being equal to 1,000 words. And that reigns true not only with a painting or whatever, but also big time when it comes to something technical like this. Now I have some extra wiring here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure I don't grab my ribbon cable here, but I'm going to actually give this like a small twist in the hope I don't break anything. And what I'm trying to do is work these wires so that they kind of fit down and around that ribbon cable a little bit without imposing on it too much. The last thing I want to do is cause damage to that ribbon. So let's see, we got that there, and my hands are completely in the way, and I understand that, and I apologize, but I will show you in a moment where I am and what I did. Give you the full view here in a second. Oh, maybe you have a decent view. I can't tell. I think that will just about do it. Yes, okay. So what I've done is I've run my wiring through here real quick. We've gone down to this portion, this LED. We've tucked our wires around through here, and then we've looped our wires basically forward and then back up because we had some excess here. And then that's what we have. And we did it all with the ribbon cable already in place. Now, the reason why I ran that ribbon cable first is if we had run the ribbon cable now versus first, you can kind of figure out that it'd be awful hard to get that ribbon cable in place. It's much wider, and it's not anywhere near as flexible in terms of how you can place it as 3 strands or 6 or whatever strands of wires that we're dealing with here, depending on where we are in this harness. So that's where we're at with that. Back to the PDF. All right, so support structure, highly part built and support lightly. They're designed to break during fan installation. Yep. So first fan, so this is our hot end cooling fan that we're going to get in, and it's not much to say about that other than the fact that we need to make sure that we get our wiring in the right location. Where's the right location? I will show you right now. So what they want to do is make sure that your fan, you have an open end here with the spinning bobber, the actual fan, and you have your basket back here. And what you want to do what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that out like that, just to give me more to work with. I'm not going to pull these wires again. You got to be careful with these wires. The solder points on these are pretty small, all this stuff. But what this is going to allow me to do is kind of hold this like this, give it a twist backwards a little bit, and allow me to push this up and forward, because that is how the wiring is supposed to go. So I want to make sure I'm clearing everything. I'm not overly pinching on anything. And actually, before I get too far on that, I need to get this where it needs to be. So stand by for a quick moment. And I'm not exactly sure how much. Oh, I guess that wasn't too difficult. Okay. All right. So back to where we were. All right. So fan part like this, fan going in, wiring up the top, pushing in the top first, snapping down the bottom. It should lock right into place, just like so. This wiring right here is going to get tucked and is going to wind up in the same path as everything else thus far. I'm going to use my blunt-ended tweezers here real quick. Just give it a little bit of a coaxing back there. I already had the wiring back there, so I didn't want to force the issue in terms of getting this wiring all the way back there as well. So I think we can just tuck this in a little bit and we should be okay. And then I am going to attempt the impossible feat of getting yet another wire up this channel. There we go. Do some final tucking. And like so. Awesome. Look at that. Pretty sexy. All right, so we're at that point. Let's get back to the PDF. Fan orientation, yes, we did that, we did that, we did that. Fan wire routing, we did that because we already routed a ton of stuff already in that direction. And where are we at? Part cooling fan. So we got some modification to do. We're gonna take this thing apart and clip off the ears. Pretty much what this says right here. It's a 50-15 fan. There is a jig. I don't think you need it, but if you decide you want to use it, go ahead and use that jig. We're going to wing it. So first things first is we're going to deshroud this fan. So pull these apart one by one. There are 3 of these clips. And once you get all 3 of them, we have that. So now we have a fan that's open with some ears. I'm going to clip off the ears. We do not need the ears, so we're going to clip them off. I'm going to put my flush cuts on the inside of them, and I'm going to cut one way than the other. And do the same thing on the other side. This is not the nicest plastic ever. So at this point, if you're worried about things snapping, let's go ahead and try applying a little bit of heat. When I say a little bit, I'm going to turn this thing down. No, not up. Down, 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 down. Bring it down to about 200 degrees. And I'm going to pick up that razor blade we dropped. I dropped. It's not your fault. It's all mine. Take the blame. So I'm going to heat this up a little bit. And the reason I'm doing this is this plastic is very snappy. Yeah, I am worried that if I just go to cut this, I'm going to wind up with a broken housing on my fan. So by heating this up, I am actually going to make the plastic easier to cut, and it should greatly improve the ease of this step. Like so. Here's one gone. All right, let's get this second one. You could probably do this without heating up the plastic, and that's fine. Don't use an open flame. I'm like on camera, apologize. So basically I got this on 200 degrees. I'm just heating it up a little bit so that the plastic is a little bit more meldable. And then cut them off. Perfect. Okay. Again, probably not a needed step, but makes me feel good. That's all that matters. All right, so we did that, we did that, we do this. Next step is to install said fan into the StealthBurner, and we're also gonna need two M3x6s that I have no clue where they are, so we're gonna have to find those. So this is going in like this. Pretty much exactly the only way that it makes sense to go in. You can see where it's open for the output of the fan, and that is where it's going to go. Again, I'm going to make sure I do not crush any of the wiring I've already put in place. I am going to put in the side that has the retaining clip first, and then I am going to snap it in like so. And that seems to have worked. Cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I get nothing. All right, so we have that now, and I need those screws. What do we need again? We need some M3x6s. M3x6s are screws I don't use often. Oh, right here. Look at that. M3x6s. Do I have those in titanium? Did I order M3x6 in titanium? It would not surprise me. I'm trying to switch out as many of the screws on this StealthBurner. I did. Look at me go. As many screws as possible on the StealthBurner build with lighter weight titanium ones to save those grams. I think those are right. Yep, those are right. And 3x6. So these are basically just going to pressure hold the fan in place. Like so. And do be mindful that they are screwed in the plastic, so don't push it. And you should never overscrew. There we go. I feel that fan actually pulling down a little bit right into place where it wants to be. Slash needs to be. And I'm just going to, we'll call it sweaty finger tighten into place that. And now we have our part cooling fan and our hot end cooling fan in place. Awesome. All right, so that's a great place to kind of cut this one off right now. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and join me for the rest of this part of the build, the StealthBurner with some extras on it, and the rest of the printer itself. Lots of additional extras coming up. So I'm having a blast building this, and hopefully you are too. And if you're not, you should order one, you should build one, self-source it, order it from whoever you want to. Again, got my parts from KB3D. Yeah, so leave me a comment if you have any questions or if you have a comment, and I'll see you next time.